In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make the Flutter and Bloom blanket. In this 4-part series, I'll guide you step by step through creating this beautiful blanket made up of floral and butterfly inspired squares. So when it comes to joining, we're going to join 3 squares together to make a row, and we're going to do that 4 times. So you're going to have 4 rows of 3, which will join like this. And then we'll join those rows all together to create the full blanket. So when it comes to layouts, you're going to do 2 sets of 3, which are bloom, flutter, bloom, and then 2 sets of 3, which are flutter, bloom, flutter. And then we're going to put those together to create the actual visual effect of the blanket. So what we're going to do is we're going to be joining with our main colour. I've joined this one already, and I like to take about 2.5 to 3 of the length of the square. So cut a piece off. So we're going to take our darning needle and thread that up. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be joining in this corner, but we're actually going to be ignoring the corner chain 1 spaces for now. So if you take a look at your corner, you have a treble, which is a US double crochet, a treble, and then your chain 1 space just here, and then we have treble, chain 1, treble. We're going to be working into the top of that very first stitch. So this is our chain 1 here. And then this is our next stitch, and we're going to be inserting our hook into the top of that V. So into the top of that stitch and then out of the next stitch, like so. You're going to pull your yarn all the way through. You want to leave a tail end, and then we're going to go to the opposite side. We're going to find that chain 1, which is just here, and then we're going to find that first stitch and go into the top of that V and out of the next V, and then pull that. We don't need to pull that too tight at the moment. We're now going to find that same stitch that we just worked into, or the stitch that we came out from, so that's this one here, and we're going to go into that stitch, the top of the V, and out of the next stitch, and pull through, and then find the last stitch that we worked out of, go into that stitch and out of the next stitch. And we're going to do this until we have about 1 inch of the work sewn together. We're not pulling it tight just yet, we're just working into those stitches. So into one side and to the next side, making sure that you're always going into the stitch that you've just worked out of. So this is the last stitch, go into the next stitch, and then find that last stitch and go into the next stitch. So once you've done about 1 inch, it should look like this. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to place our finger down at the bottom here just to secure. And then on the working end of the yarn, we're going to pull that closed. You might just want to pull down on this one slightly, but I'm going to focus on pulling the working yarn. And you can see how that pulls it together really nicely. Now, if you pull too tight on this, you're going to bunch it up, and we don't want that to happen. It's not a problem if you do that. You can actually fix it by just pulling it apart slightly, so that it sits nicely. We want it to sit just nice and neatly together. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to carry on working your way up. Now you do want to make sure that you are lining the stitches up properly, so that when we get to the section here, we've got our lines meeting together. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way up that opening, joining those 2 squares together, and then what I'll do is I'll show you how we're going to finish here and also finish this corner just here. So now you've got to the end, you've just worked into your last 2 stitches here and here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to find that corner stitch, so that chain 1, and I'm going to go through the chain 1 of the same side and then find the chain 1 on the opposite side, which is here, and then pull that closed and then go back through that chain 1 again, back through the chain 1 and pull close. This kind of really secures it, and then I'm just going to go back through the chain 1 again and then just fasten off. Like so. I am going to leave that not sewn in though for now. I'm actually going to sew that in once we've done the border, because if we do get any gaps when we're working the border, then sewing in this last actually helps to close that gap. So now I'm going to go back to that first tail end, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find the chain 1 and the chain 1, pull that through, and then the chain 1, pull it through, secure that, and then back through the chain 1 again, bring it through to the back and fasten off. Again, leaving that so that I can use that tail end if I need it when it comes to the border. So now that you've done your 3, you now need to do that a further 3 times with the pattern. So again, 1 like this with the bloom, the flutter and the bloom, and then 2 with flutter, bloom and flutter. So once you have done all of those, we're then going to connect those 3 squares together. So we're now working down, down, down to make the length of the blanket. So we're going to do this in exactly the same way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start joining these ones in exactly the same way. You might want to do a shorter length of the yarn that we're using, just so that you don't get too wrapped up with all of the yarn. So maybe do 2 and a little bit length's worth of 2 squares so that we can add more if we need to. But I'm going to go ahead and start to join this section, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we're going to join these 4 corners together so that you can move on with the rest of your joining. So I've now just worked my way up to this corner space. And what we want to do here is we want to make sure that these 4 corners joining are going to be really nice and tight and secure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into that corner space of this square and then out of the corner space of the next square, like so, and then into the corner space of the next square and out of the corner space of the next square. So we're just going in like a box shape and then pull that nice and tight. You don't want it to pucker. And then we're going to go into the corner space of the next square and out of the corner space of the next square again. And that will bring us over to where we want to continue with our join. So I'm just going to go into that stitch and out through that stitch, and then find the stitch on the opposite square, and go in and out of those stitches, and just working my way all the way across just as I have been. So make sure you work about 1 inch and then pull that nice and tightly. Make sure that you're happy with that join before continuing on. But this is what you're going to do for the rest of the joining. So you'll join these 3 squares together along the long edge, and then you'll do the next ones and then the next ones, and eventually you'll have all 12 of your squares joined. So go ahead, join your squares. And then in the next video, we're going to be doing the border.